I was driving down the road, only a minute and a half from home, when the tires on my car got a mind of their own. There was freezing rain pelting down onto my windshield, and it was hard to see through the rain and snow, but none of that mattered because all I knew was I could no longer control the car. The two-wheel drive was useless. I knew I was going to crash. I could feel it coming. The car was heading to the middle of the road, and I was frantically turning the wheel to the right, but it seemed I had no choice in where my car was going to end up. High school means more freedom, more choices, but a lot more responsibility. Freshman year, you get to pick your classes. Sophomore year, you're getting your license. Junior year, you get a job. Senior year, you're applying for college, and the list goes on. You're going to start to realize how after you step out the doors of middle school, you're starting to grow up. You feel the changes in your personality. You see the changes in yourself. It's a new chapter of your life. Your body is changing, people's personalities become more mature and less childlike, and you start to connect with more people as your mind opens up about the world. I started to notice all of this when I got my job, a license, and then a car. You never really know how many things can race through your mind in a few seconds until it happens. As my tires were heading toward the other lane, toward the woods, toward the lane again, back to the woods, I couldn't stop thinking. The thoughts raced in my head with every passing second. Please don't die. Don't break your legs in half. Holy crap. This is happening. This is going to hurt. That's the last thing I could remember before opening my eyes. I had to start driving myself to school, sports, and events. This meant I needed to keep track of my own schedule, which I'm sure you will also begin to do. When I got my license, I needed a car, and a car comes with a price, a pretty big one, in fact. I looked around the car. The side airbags had deployed, but not the front. There was red on the side airbags. My panicked self first thought it was blood, and I immediately feared what had happened to me, but it was just the design of the airbag. No blood, just bad designers. Then some relief. There was a tree in front of me. The front of the car seemed fine. Maybe the bumper was damaged, not too bad. I wasn't overly concerned about that at the moment. All these thoughts occurred within seconds. Then my nose hurt and I tasted blood. I was so scared and I started crying. I was crying so hard that I couldn't breathe. I was scared, confused. I still didn't fully understand what happened. I remember crying with no tears. I knew I was crying. I sounded like I was crying. I couldn't take deep breaths. But I felt no tears, no wet cheeks. I don't know why. I saw my phone on the ground. Surprised it wasn't broken, I shakily reached for it and called my dad. My dad was my go-to call. When he picked up the phone after the second call, I was crying and he was freaking out, his voice raised. "Slow down. Are you okay? Tell me you're okay." I told him I was fine and kept repeating over and over, "Please don't speed." The weather was bad, but despite that, I knew he would rush down the road to find me. He would do anything for his kids. It scared me, and I didn't want to put him in harm's way. I was less than 2 minutes from my house. It didn't really feel like 2 minutes, though. I felt like I was years away from the safety of my house. I was sitting in the car, very aware of how loud my cries were, but hearing nothing else. We hung up. The next thing I heard was a man tapping on my window. He was on the phone with 911, asking if I was hurt. I said I thought I was fine and that I just hit my nose. Only a minute later, my dad was in the passenger seat with me, holding my hands. He was shaking, and I was still crying. I felt so bad. To get that car, I needed to get a job. So I did, and was able to get my first car on my own. It feels pretty good to do that for yourself. You start to feel grown up. You're like your own person, in control of your life, or most of it. I had to buy 2 cars in my first winter of driving because I wrecked my first one. The whole back half of my car was crushed. The car shrank by 1/3 of its size. I was frustrated and mad. I had just bought that car less than 3 months before. I had worked so hard for it, and I was going to have to do all of that again. Not to mention that the 4 new tires in the back of the car that I had bought only days before had become scrap. Back to step 1. I was not happy. Now I would have to make weekly payments on my car, unlike some other kids, but like most adults. I realized that I have changed, and that all my friends in our lives are changing. We have taken on a lot of responsibility, and in doing so, grown and matured. It is all a little overwhelming. You need to balance school, work, and sports and clubs for some, but balancing your plate is a big part of life, and you start to discover that now. These changes and realizations in high school will happen for everybody. You just don't quite know when. However, I can tell you it will be soon and life will just keep moving and you will do great. This is the time where you start to become you. You'll do it again after high school and keep changing, growing, and shaping into the person you will become. But it starts now. Life will throw challenges your way, as big as a crash and as small as a bad grade. Nobody ever says it will be easy, but it will be worth it. Everyone goes through rough patches in their life, and it may seem like a complete wreck. Yet you will come out okay, learn from your mistakes, and continue to grow. Just keep pushing.